Are you like me and wondering, what is embodiment? Like, what is that, right? Then this is the episode for you. We have a great guest today, Chrissy Powers, who is a licensed therapist in San Diego, California, and an embodiment coach. And she's here to give us the scoop on what it is and what it is not. Chrissy walks us through how embodiment can not only be healing for ourselves, but also our relationships. Stay tuned to the end where Chrissy gives us a fun tip to start the journey on embodiment. If you are new here, you're listening to the How We Get Thru podcast, a place for you to feel connected through deep and meaningful conversations with healers from all over the world. I'm your host, Jen, a licensed therapist and founder and CEO of the How We Get Thru app. And my mission is to bring you affordable and diverse therapy resources to help you get through the hard stuff, all in one place and at your own pace. Welcome to the How We Get Thru community. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the How We Get Thru podcast. We have another special guest. I feel like I say that every time, but it's just very true. The people that are coming on have held such space for me, whether they know it or not. But we're excited to have Chrissy Powers on. She's a licensed therapist and embodiment coach. Chrissy, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yes. And before we start into the mental health myth, I just wanted to tell you that what I see you doing on Instagram and TikTok in your own freedom of sexuality, sensuality has really impacted me. And so I just wanted to say publicly, thank you for your healing that is really allowing other people to heal and other women to heal. So
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That means so much to me. And it really is affirming that even if I didn't know what I was doing, that I was doing it for a reason and that it was helpful for somebody else. Yeah.
Yes. And sometimes we, create things in a vacuum. We're like, was this helpful? I'm not sure. But in our own healing, and I think that's the way for healers, is I'm going to dive into me and start healing me and see what comes out of that. And beautiful things. So thank you so much. We, again, like to start every show with a mental health myth. And so we would love to know yours.
Yeah, I think one that I've proven myself that is a myth that I thought recently it was just uncovered. And I realized embodiment does not mean that I feel good and sexy all the time.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, because I was following these other coaches that really were in their bodies and super free and super sensual. And I was just that seems out of touch. I don't know if I'm ever going to get there. And I realized I was sort of comparing myself and my journey to them. And I was telling myself that was the ultimate level of embodiment. And I realized through research and study and my own personal experience, that's actually not. That's their experience. But embodiment, my old self would have said embodiment was that. And I'm now realizing embodiment is just being in my body and noticing what I'm feeling in the moment. So it's not always good, but it's paying attention and having a different relationship to my body. Doesn't mean that I always feel good.
Yes, I love that. Again, I think it's a freedom, an invitation to freedom into your body, because we do that a lot as women, especially. We look outside of ourselves and well, she looks really free, or she's doing the things and even the sensual parts that, I see on Instagram too. I'm like, damn girl, okay.
Yeah.
Do I need to be doing that?
Yeah.
On Instagram? Do I, or do I want to? Maybe is the question.
That's the question. Do I want to? I recently went to a retreat, a divine feminine or sacred feminine retreat. And we did ecstatic dance at the last night, which was so, so freeing and amazing. At the end, not everyone, but a lot of the women got naked because they were in a safe container of women. And it was amazing.
Did you get naked?
Normally I would have. But I was so in my body and I was listening. They set this up so perfectly where they were listen to your body, listen to your no. And I think a lot of us women don't know what our no feels like. And I was cognizant of this. I was normally I would have gotten naked with all these other women dancing freely just to fit in. And I knew in that moment, my body was you don't want that. You want to be cozy. You're tired. Your foot hurts. You want to go sit in that room with the group of women that aren't naked. And so that's what I did. And I was so proud of myself. I was that's embodiment.
Beautiful.
And it wasn't me judging. I went into the naked women group and I danced with them and I was like, this is beautiful. I love this for them. And I'm listening to my body, and my body says right now that I want to be cozy and warm, and I'm tired, and I want to rest, and I want to go sit in this room. And I allowed myself to do that without feeling the need to fit in that way or perform in that way.
I love, because I think there's an element of judgment that you're kind of hitting on, in that judgment of ourselves and judgment of others. If I have to fit in, if I'm forced to fit into this, am I starting to judge these women for making me get naked, right? Or making me dance, right? Versus the invitation of, if there wasn't judgment here, what does that feel like for me? Does this feel like I want to move in this room, or does it feel like I want to move in that room? The choice around that I think we don't give ourselves because we have to.
Yeah, it was all about the choice. It's right for me in this moment. Maybe next time I feel free and I want to go there, and that's healing. But yeah, this for me was like having agency felt really good.
Yes, having agency. Ugh. So could you give maybe a definition of embodiment? Because I feel like it's floating around. It feels like almost like meditation, where it feels so unattainable, or like you have to like be on a mountain for 6 hours to meditate. Yeah. Where embodiment, like, I imagine, is just very simple.
It is very simple.
Like the concept is simple.
Yeah, the concept is noticing what arises in your body as it arises. So that could be, I'm anxious today, or I'm noticing my left arm today is really hurting and I've got some nerve pain and I need to listen to that and not push through it. It could be, I'm tired. Where am I at in my cycle? If you're a woman, like, so embodiment really is noticing what the body is telling you as it's telling you. And so it's, looking at anxiety and where you feel it in your body. Specifically, when I work with clients, we get much more deep into emotions in the body and where we feel it, and maybe even like an age that we can attach to it, and then a memory we can attach to it, and how we can shift it and move it around physically. So somatically, we're moving the body. And so it's really, for me, like, it's combining the head, the heart, the body.
Yes. Holistic. I mean, how can you not, right? Yeah. Like, I think the more that you, or at least that I dive into this work, I'm like, oh my gosh, where's the soul in the body in therapy, Yeah. And in my own experience, my body has always been screaming at me to heal. Can you talk about your journey into this? Because I think it's really important of where you came from, and again, like, what you've broken free. And I think, as we all do, we continue to like break free and heal. Yeah. But how'd you get here?
Yeah, I like my 20-year-old self would be like shocked that I'm this type of therapist, or I'm this like free, or I posted that, because I was very different. I grew up in a small, sort of legalistic, I would call it, or fundamental Christian church. I was a pastor's daughter, but I've always had a side of me that was like spicy, I would say. I would like, or assertive. Like, I wanted to know why women couldn't speak in church. I wanted to understand that. And with all of the, reasons why, it never made sense to me. But I still was like, okay, well, it doesn't make sense to me, but if these are the rules, I'm gonna follow them, and I'm gonna be good. Did everything right, but then I went to college, and I started having panic attacks in college, and they just came out of nowhere. And I was like, what is going on? And at this time, I knew nothing about embodiment. I just knew, go to a therapist, go talk about it. And so that led into me having an eating disorder, getting more disembodied, because I was very much mind over matter. And I was like, okay, if I want these things in my life, I have to abide by these societal rules, and this is where I get my sense of control and sense of belonging is, controlling my body in this way. And then that is what led me to become a therapist, was that I knew I had to heal from this eating disorder. I loved the work, and I was like, I could help other women with eating disorders, still yet not knowing anything about embodiment. When I became a mom, my panic and all of the anxiety just like came to a head. And I realized, like, I couldn't live the way that I had been living. Like my body literally felt like it was at war and would respond to things as if I was being attacked or being like the worst thing was going to happen. And so I felt very disempowered, and I went and started to get help, and I joined a women's group or women's circle probably 5 years ago. And this is where she taught us different things like our cycle and how to bleed with the moon. And I was like, what is
I
this?
love it.
I'm
Love
like,
it.
wait, what? Like, I didn't know
all the
any of
witchy
this.
things.
All the witchy things.
Yeah.
And I was like dipping my toe in. I was like, okay, which is great. Like everybody, you can dip your toe in. You have to serve it. If things aren't for you, you're going to know.
Right.
And so I started to learn about femininity and the body. And she taught us nonlinear movement. And I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing here. This feels good. I had a lot of pent up anger. And I just remember doing this nonlinear movement on my mat, just pounding it and just like getting this anger out and this aggression. And as it started, I started to feel better. I started to notice the more I moved my body, the more things came up for me mentally that I might need to process with my therapist. Or what I noticed the most was a trigger would happen. And normally when a trigger happened, my body would respond and go into sort of the fight or flight. And my mind would be like, you're fine. Why are you doing this? You're fine. But I couldn't calm my body down. So then when the triggers happened and my body didn't respond, that's when I knew it was working.
Wow. Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, that normally would have set me into a panic, and I didn't panic. And so then I got trained in nonlinear movement in 2019. I learned even more about trauma in the body, and that's what started it for me.
What do you think is the connection, I think maybe in your own experience, of the movement and the release of the emotion? Do you feel like it's energetic? Do you feel like how would you kind of explain that experience? It's
very energetic. And for me, it was like a moving meditation. As I'm moving, the more I move out thoughts, and I notice them without judgment. And I'll be like, yeah, that's an interesting thought. Like I would move my hips and I would be like, oh, the old me would be making fun of me right now, or thinking I'm too sexy or too sensual or too about myself, or look at you. And then I would note it without judgment, and I would be like, let's keep moving through that. The more I would move through it, the more I'd realize my body wants to move this way. And so I'm moving against something, or I'm moving to break free of something. I allowed myself to do that. I gave myself permission to be in that cognitive dissonance of like, what I had learned or thought previously about my body or women's bodies and sensuality or freedom. And the more I allowed myself to explore it, the more I was like, this is good. It's good to be free here, and it's not dangerous. I'm not going to hurt anyone. I'm not going to make anybody stumble. I'm not going to hurt my relationship.
Sorry.
Yeah. In fact, I helped my relationship. I became closer to my husband because I was embodied. I saw just the fruit of it. Like, it was amazing to come back home to myself.
And I've heard, I can't remember who I heard this from, so I don't know where, but in the body, in the pelvic region, like it's almost like a bowl. Maybe this is from my pelvic floor therapist, actually.
Yeah.
A lot of things can settle there. A lot of energies can settle in this bowl, because it's like from the top to the bottom, like it just kind of lands there. And so when you talk about moving your hips, how powerful that can be for women, especially where we create from, where we store things, where we have pleasure. Like there's so many beautiful parts in that. And I think we get really stuck in of like, can I move myself? Can I, I'm a mom now, or can I, like, I'm not 20 anymore, or whatever the thought is.
That is our powerhouse. I say that all the time to women. Like, that is where we create. That is where we feel things deeply. And it's also where we get the most constricted or corseted. It's like, keep it tight. Like, don't get too wild. Don't feel too good in your body. Don't feel. So we are constricted by what other people say. And so moving my hips has been extremely freeing.
I just the other day, so I made this connection. I used to love to like lip sync and do music videos when I was younger, like just in the mirror. Like I'm putting on music and I'm dancing, whatever. Yeah. And yesterday I was like, no one's at my house. I gotta do this. And then put on Alexa, and I put on Meatloaf. I would do anything for love. I don't know.
I love it.
I really loved that song. I just loved that song when I was younger, and I'm like, this is it. And I would just music videoed it out, and it felt so good. And I think, again, when I became a mom, like, I just forgot this kind of piece of me. I think naturally a little bit, as you do, like, you're just like, well, I got other things to focus on here. I mean, not everyone that's listening is a mom, but I think it's really important to, like, I feel like there's like a full circle, or like this coming back to self after becoming a mom. And like, how do you regain your sensuality, your sexuality as a mom, and kind of like be free in that? Like, did that feel constricting for you as a mom, or did it feel like more like the religious aspect was more present for you?
Well, I think the mom part is that you just have less time for yourself. You don't have the time to do as much like of this work, I think. Or maybe it's more incremental, especially when your babies are young. Now my babies are a little bit older, so I do have more time to say, yeah, I'm going to go to this retreat on this weekend, or I'm going to take this class. And so I don't feel like as tied down there. But for me personally, it was like the religious and the societal constructs of what a good woman was, or a good wife, or a good mother. And then just not really seeing it, not seeing that modeled. Like my mom, I love my mom. She's a great model, but I see how the system even shut her down in many ways. Yeah, and how she's sort of coming back to her own right now at almost 70 years old.
Yeah. And is that because of you, or is that, do you think, are you inviting her into that? Or?
I have. I've invited her into it. I've shared a little bit. She went on my women's retreat to France, and she just thrived, and I loved it. I was like, gosh, Mom, I wish you had a group of women that you could do this with.
And I think that's so important. What you've mentioned multiple times already is a group of women.
Yeah.
You have found healing in a group of women.
Yep. Always.
Why do you think that is?
I think for years in general, we've been at war with each other. I think there's so much competition, and like are always comparing ourselves, like, because that's, it's so hard to be a good woman, like in society's terms, like, and we judge women, right? It's like you've seen the Barbie monologue, and like, that's exactly how it feels, right? I'm not enough, or I'm too much, or I'm work too much. I don't work enough. It's just like, so I think we're always looking at other women to be the barometer to tell us that we're doing a good job. So there's like a lot of self-comparison and criticism and competition. And when I got into safe spaces of women, that's when I was like, whoa, I feel at home here. I don't feel judged here. And I was expanded by other women who had done the work. So I always say, like, when women rise, other women rise. So like when you rise, I rise. When you get free, I get free. Unless I'm scared of that freedom.
Yeah.
And if I'm scared of that freedom, that's on me, not
then
you.
I criticize or
So if I ever judge, I always say, like, no. I'm like, every woman I've ever judged, I've needed to learn from.
Yeah. Oh my God. That is so good. Can you say that again, please?
Every woman that I've ever judged, I have needed to learn from. Yeah. She's had something that I've needed that I was resisting.
Yeah. That's so beautiful. I find that because I think I follow Portia, and sometimes her videos, I'm like, wait, I don't know. And then I'm like, oh, what is that? What is that with me that feels like, I don't know, And then I'm like, oh, good for her, Go, do it. Do what you want, I don't have to do that in the same way, right? I think, again, coming back to that, like, invitation is when you can notice things that you see or see other women doing, like, you ask yourself, what is coming up for me in that?
Yeah.
Is it criticism? Is it judgment? Is it freedom? Is it excitement? Like, is it all the things? And giving yourself time to explore, where I think sometimes when we see things, we're like, oh, I'm, or not that girl, or whatever it is. Like, we're very critical.
Yeah, I've had moments like that too. You know who Regina Thomas Hauer is? She's Mama Gina on Instagram.
Oh, yes,
she wrote Pussy. So for years, I was like, oh, she's too much for me. Like, I couldn't do that, or I don't know about that. And it was because I'd never seen a woman her age be that embodied and sensual and wear what she wanted to wear. So I judged it naturally, and I wasn't ready for it. And then when I started to get more curious about my judgments, I was like, okay, why are you so like judgmental of this woman? Like, just because she's older and she's that free, or she talks about sexuality, or, I really realized it was because I wanted that. And didn't give
Yeah.
myself that permission.
Yeah.
And so the more I lean into it, and then I read her book and was just mind blown by it.
I gotta
And I
read
was
it.
just like, this is amazing that she's teaching women this, that she's giving that freedom. And so it was me realizing, oh, I didn't have access to that freedom. I ultimately wanted that freedom in my own way. I don't necessarily need to do it how that woman does it, but I'm like, I want that. And if I don't have that, then we usually judge it, or if we're afraid of it, we judge it.
And I think as you're talking, I feel like there's just layers of fear for women to be embodied or to be sensual or sexual.
Absolutely.
And, you know, I mean, even just the fear of if I'm too sexual, what will happen, you know, or like fear of just being assaulted, I think, like what came up for me. And so again, there's a layer of like, it's not safe to be embodied, or it's going to send the wrong signal or whatever. I mean, that's very religious, I think, and patriarchal. But I think it's like naming that can also be really empowering.
Yeah, and being in our bodies can be scary, because being in your body means you have to feel what you feel, and you might need to process some hard things. So that's why it's so powerful to work with someone who can make it be a safe space and say, yeah, maybe you're not ready for that, or you're ready for this, or we do this work here in this safe place. And embodiment doesn't always mean sexuality or even sensuality. It's like, oh, I need rest today. Oh, I want to feel comfortable today, or these pants are making me feel not good. I'm going to change into something that does feel good. But the sensual piece, or the piece that you're like, you know, will I get taken advantage of? A lot of this work wasn't even an invitation to be sexual with even my partner. It was like, I am just in my body right now, and I feel so good, and I feel free. And it's wonderful to be in my body and to love my body. And sometimes that's all that it is. It's like, does it need to end with anything specific? So I think if you're afraid of the effects of it, or like being embodied might send the wrong signal, that shouldn't happen if you're embodied. If you're in your body and then it sends the wrong signal, your body will tell you, this isn't safe. Get out of here. Like, this isn't safe. That person's creepy. This isn't, you know. So the body always knows how to protect us. It's our minds that get in the way, I think, of our bodies saying, hey, this doesn't feel right. This feels draining, or this feels scary and grounded, or something like that. So I think we can trust our bodies that when we live in them, we know, like, it's called the felt sense, right? Like, have you ever felt someone like staring at you from behind you?
Yes.
Or I think a lot of women can resonate feeling like someone's following us.
Yes.
That's your body. That's your body picking that up, that energy. Because our bodies actually go beyond our physical bodies. We have like this energetic body. Yeah.
How do you think this relates to like divine feminine, spirituality, being embodied? Like, is there a connection there for you that you found?
Yeah, I found a lot of this healing work with the divine feminine through Megan Watterson. She wrote Mary Magdalene Revealed and some other books that I love. And I think if you grew up in the church, the message I received from that was a female body is less than a male body, and therefore females are less than. Even if no one said that explicitly, like, that's the message I got. Like, oh, Eve gave the apple to Adam, and then the fall of man happened. Okay, well, I feel bad for that. Like, where? Okay, and then all of a sudden God's mad, and then God floods the earth, and then all of this stuff that feels really heavy to carry as a woman. Yeah. And I internalized a lot of that. I felt bad, and I felt like, where am I then in my relationship to God? Is it all this masculine male figure that's like, okay, I just need to keep being better, and I need to keep being more pure or holy? Like, if I knew we were all created in God's image, I was like, there's got to be a feminine part of God then. Yeah. But that was never talked about in the church that I grew up in. even there's words like Shekinah. We used to like God and his Shekinah glory, which is so funny that we say his Shekinah glory, because Shekinah is the feminine. It means divine feminine. And no one explained that to me. And so there were other things, other words even that I've heard that were feminine, or our breasted one, the breasted one of God. Like in Song of Solomon's, I think there was a word for that. And so things like that were sort of overlooked and not talked about in religion and Christianity, because I think there's been a long line of fear around the female body and the female like power and divine feminine. But so that's been sort of like not talked about in modern day religion. And the goddess or the feminine, the divine feminine, has been left out. But if you search for her, you'll find her. And I was like, well, here I am, a woman who believes in something bigger than myself. I do believe in God. There's got to be I have to be represented then. Yeah. And when I was like, oh my gosh, like, yes, we are represented. Birth, nature, our cycles, the moon, all of that is just so deeply feminine. And I'm learning so much about that and feeling, I think it just feels safer to be a woman when I know that God is also a woman.
For you. Yeah. And a part of you. It's not something, that's separate.
Yeah. And I mean, God is, when I say God is a woman, I'm like, that sounds funny to say, because God's not a woman. He's not a man. God is spirit. God is divine. God is all. If God is all, then I can see God in everything. I can see God in women. I can see God in the homeless man down the street. I can see God in
death, in birth.
Death. I can see God in the trans person. It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that perspective. I think, if we are images of God or made of God or whatever, then we are all as well, right? So what does that mean for me? If I can have masculine and feminine energy, if I can create some sort of balance with that, if I can create acceptance around that for me, then I can do that for you.
That's where it all starts.
Okay, I think I keep going back to sensuality and sexuality because I think that's where I'm at. That's so
I love
funny.
it.
Yeah, because I'm hearing what you're saying. Like right now for you, it's actually just listening to your body. And I think for me, it's like, oh, where did that go? Like, where's because I am like a deeply sensual person. And I think I've just been kind of like in the shadows for a long time, feels like. And connecting that feels very powerful for me because I feel like I've always been in my body. Like I'm really connected to a migraine is coming. I'm on my cycle. My right toe hurts. Like I'm like so connected to that where and it's not like binary, like maybe you're this, or maybe it is, right? But it's like, how are you kind of connecting to all of these senses?
Yeah.
And I think pleasure has been one of the things that I'm like, oh, where did that go? Right. And I want that. And I am that. And that can be for me.
Yeah. And the fact that like our bodies as women, like female pleasure in general has been stigmatized for so long that it's like hard to talk about. I remember being in my 20s and like having a vibrator and being so ashamed and like the time I told my friend like, and she was like, oh my gosh, I do too. And I was like, and now I like talk about it online. I'm like, this is so crazy, but I thought
sell it. No.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm like,
here's my code.
Here's my code. Get this vibrator. So yeah, I think that it's okay to feel like inhibited, but then realize like that's not from me and like it's something else outside of me corseting me. Think of the corset. It's like, don't feel good in your body. Don't you like tap into that. But the fact that our clitoris has like 10,000 nerve endings, like and multiple orgasms for that purpose and nothing else.
And nothing else. Praise God.
Praise God. Nothing else. Like that, literally, I had holy orgasms when I had my awakening, like my sexual awakening, or some people call it a Kundalini awakening. This was a couple of years ago. I literally had like multiple orgasms, and I never knew my body could do that and feel that good. And I was like, I had a moment where I felt like God was telling me, this is what your body was always meant to be and feel and do.
How freeing is that?
Yeah. I
How
was like,
beautiful is that?
I had that moment where I was like, there's no shame in this.
Listen.
And I'm not like silly. Like I used to go from like silly to sinful. It was like I'm either silly or
Oh,
sinful. It was that scale. I could
yeah.
never just be.
And I think we talked about this before. I don't know if you ever saw See, the show with Jason Momoa. There's only like 3 seasons, but the evil queen in it, she actually I'm going to use the word self-pleasure, not masturbate. Self-pleasures as a form of prayer. And
Oh,
I remember watching it, I'm like, "Oh, yeah. I don't this feels terrible." But she's
yeah.
also evil. So it's like there's this
Yeah. Of
weird
course, they made it
like
the evil woman.
yes, exactly.
Pleasuring herself.
There's this weird like she has all this power and she's really connected to her sensuality and she self-pleasures as a form of prayer and like an offering up to the gods or whatever. But
Yeah.
then she's also trying to destroy all the people in her kingdom, you know? And so
Right.
it's like, again, here's a beautiful thing that gets twisted into if we don't control this for women, they're going to
Yeah.
destroy us. Which I think in the more that I unpack all of this, like the more that we love ourselves, the more we actually love other people and call people into healing.
Yeah.
But the way that it's viewed for women's like self-love or self-healing is like we have to control that. But can you imagine if we all like
Felt that good.
yes.
Yeah.
And I feel like the divine feminine's kind of coming up anyway. And I believe like our job is to keep inviting divine masculine as well, but also other women into love.
Yeah. And the divine
Acceptance.
feminine isn't just for women. Like men have it
Right.
too. My husband healed his feminine before I healed mine.
Please talk. Okay, I see his Instagram thing and I'm like, Swami Powers.
I
That's
know.
not it.
I was like, why are these Swami Powers?
Swami Powers. Please tell me about Sam Powers because he's making his own unicorn. And I want to, again, like, because of your healing, it invited him in and he had a choice of whether or not he was going to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he chose to.
Yeah. He's always been different. Like, I remember meeting him and thinking, like, I might have known the type of guy he was, but then I was like, oh my gosh, you read cooking magazines? Okay. You like cooking? Okay, cool. Like, so he's always, like, had a sort of been okay with being different. And he grew up very similar to me too, which we like to say it was not all bad. Like so much of it was good, and the community and the love and learning about God was great. But like the constructs of like what a good man was and what a good woman was, like just didn't serve us well early part in our marriage because he had so much pressure that he put on himself to be this good, godly head of the house provider. And then when we finally like threw it away and we were like, wait, but we're the head of the house together. It was super healing for him. And so he sort of had his own awakening through COVID and like, you know, his own feelings of like hitting rock bottom with his own depression and realizing like that he had to go get his own help, that he couldn't just be a husband and a dad. And that's what we needed him to do, was like to focus on himself. And it was very hard for him to do that. But he went and took the time. He went to a beautiful place called Onsite, which we both have gone to. We did some experiential work separately there. And he learned about himself more. He learned how to love himself. And then he came home sort of like with this fire lit inside of him to learn more and to learn more about codependency, or he paid attention to women. I remember when like the U2 movement happened and I was like, we hadn't really deconstructed anything yet. And so, but part of me really resonated with it. And I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, like I think that was me too. Like this first job I had, that was really hard to be in an office with old men. And the stuff that I heard and saw was like, I just let it go. But it really isn't right. And like, I can remember there was like resistance there, like, well, what do women want? Or what are they really like, they're just making a big deal about it. And now he's like, he's listened to women. He's read female authors. Like he's read about feminist literature. He's educated himself. And so I think that's made the biggest difference, is that he was like, there's something here that I also need. And so all of the things that he's read, whether they're written by a man or a woman, or they're like feminist literature or something else, it's always been so healing for him as well. Because it's inviting that nurturing part to his own life, that he doesn't have to be this like warrior all the time, protecting everything and everyone and making everything happen and being this like successful man in America or whatever. He's worked really hard on his personal, like, just loving himself.
And how has that impacted your relationship?
It's helped a lot, because, he used to look to me to build him up. And I used to say, I can't make you feel like a man. I just can't. Like, I can't make you feel good about this, or I can't help you with that. You have got to believe in yourself. And so it's helped us a lot, so that some of the codependent patterns aren't happening as much, or he notices it now and he's like, okay.
It's as you're talking, I see like what Sam went through. I see a lot of women go through as well, is this over masculine energy to problem solve, to produce, to be all the things. I mean, this is why women are burning out very quickly, and men, right? And so it is, I mean, this isn't like the end all be all. It's not like a blanket statement, but it just feels like there's the call for more feminine energy into men and women's lives. And when I'm talking very binary here, right? Because there's nuance there. But if we could invite more feminine energy, which is the nurturing, which is the caring of, and again, starting with ourselves, like, the nurturing energy for me is caring for me. It's not caring for my kids more. It's not caring for my husband more. It is caring for me. It's reparenting me. It's attending to my needs, right? And I think in everything you said with Sam is like, oh, I can't do that for you. You have to do that for yourself. You have to nurture that for yourself. And so this is like kind of how I view the world right now is, can we kind of invite more feminine energy of this nurturing, caretaking for ourselves to then have enough capacity to either care for somebody else, or again, model and invite someone else into that.
That's what he did for himself and other men now. And he was literally like talking about all this stuff like on the job site. He's a contractor, so he would literally be like sharing this information as they're building something, and like the guys are like all in tears and they're like, geez, Sam, okay, I needed to hear that. And so he actually became a coach through Mike Foster's organization. So he's coaching now and doing like construction as well. And he just has a heart for men also like receiving this healing, that need to nurture themselves, that need to love their inner child. And that's very much the feminine, of being able to go inward and to learn about emotions and to connect it to, the things that you need to learn about yourself or to heal from. So I think that that's what I think about, is how he has done that for himself, and now how he can offer that to other men and women. It's very healing to see men heal. When I see men heal, it's one of my favorite things. When I see a man connect to his emotions and to
that's very sexy. It's very safe. It is just like, that's why I think all the women are responding to Sam. They're like, what? What did he say? This is amazing. Yes. And like, you're just like cheering him on in like this most beautiful way. And again, I just think both of you, as you've done your own healing, have really created something beautiful together, which is safety. Enough of like, there's safety within you, there's safety within me, and now there's safety within us. And we can like keep going. And it's so beautiful.
I feel that. Yeah.
Okay, Chrissy, please talk about your embodiment program. Tell us what it's about. I have a really good friend that just went through it. She loved it. You guys get to meet in the beach. Christina, shout out. So tell us more about like what it is, what we can get out of it. And all the fun stuff.
Yes. So I have a group program that I'm relaunching in March called the Embodied Woman. And it's like it's a 10-week program where every week we show up live as a group, where I educate, where I'll hold space for, processing of the material that we're going to go through. I bring in guest speakers that are like, experts in certain things like your cycle or pleasure, or breath work. And then everything's recorded so that if you can't make it live, you can watch it afterwards. And there's always homework to practice this work. So it was like, okay, yes, I learned about my inner child. Now, how do I integrate it and embody that healing? So it's sort of both, doing this like deep work to understand who is my inner child, who is my shadow, who is my highest self. How do I integrate all of them through embodiment practices like nonlinear movement or breath work? And we do that over I made it 10 weeks because I added a couple weeks because I was like, we need a couple more sessions. We need more. I wanted it to keep going forever. It was just so fun to be with women online every week and just to get to chat and see how they were doing. And then we have like a WhatsApp thread text that we every day would be talking about the work or how did that exercise affect you? Oh, it was hard. Yeah, it was hard for me too. So it's really connecting as women, doing the work together. So obviously it's all online because it's over 10 weeks, but it's one of my favorite things to do. And I talk about all of this stuff in there. And it's very much the mental, emotional, and spiritual, connecting the mind, body, and soul through embodiment work and learning about femininity, feminine archetypes, your cycle, and, what inner child healing is. And I eventually want to make one that couples could do together or men can do as well, because men need to become embodied as well.
Yeah.
But this one is specifically for women.
I love because I feel like it's a good in between a intense retreat in the desert, in the sweat lodge.
Yeah.
And like real world. I still have a family, have a job. I have to like kind of function here. So I love that's what you kind of offer to, again, is that safe space, this group of women that can come together and kind of dismantle all of these things to rebuild or reconnect with their truest selves. And it's such a beautiful thing.
Thank you. Yeah, that's exactly what I feel like it is. It's like obviously being in the desert for a few days together is ideal. But when you go home, you're like, how do I integrate
what
this?
happened?
And did I just forget about all that? And so it's much more in the moment, real life. Like, yeah, you didn't get to that homework this week. That's fine. Do it next week. Or how do you create a safe space in your own home? So we start there. We start with like creating your own safe space in your home.
Okay. There's actually one thing that I've heard you say before, and I really want to talk about it. Again, back to the sensuality. You have suggested that women go and buy some lingerie or buy some new underwear or bra. Can you just speak about that for a second?
Yes. Oh, it's so funny because I'm like, I totally need to go buy some new underwear now.
Well, I'm glad you're saying, because girl, I have like old, I just bought a non-nursing bra. I haven't nursed someone in 5 years. My underwear is like falling apart. It's from college. Like, it's the last thing that I care about. Yeah. And I'm like, why is this the last thing that I care about?
Yeah, probably because you have a lot of other things on your plate. But if you wanted to do something special for yourself and you wanted to feel good in your body, I think one of the easiest ways to do that is to buy something that you feel really sexual and sensual in. Like maybe it's just like a satin pair of underwear or a bra that match. For me, it was like that match.
Yes. And like a set of
just
something.
A set. And it doesn't have to be expensive, and it can just be, And I started to realize, like, okay, when I look at myself in the mirror in this, I feel super sexy, and I can move in a way that feels sexy, and I could push myself a little bit more. And so one of the exercises we did in my group was that, like, feel, and I give women full agency and permission. If this is too much for you, don't do it. Or if you need to start by just wearing a dress or a beautiful robe, do that. But if you want to be naked, go naked if you want. But being in something that feels good and on your body, and that you can see as like beautiful, and then moving your body in a way that feels good can help you to reprogram some of those negative body images, like noticing obviously like the things we don't like. We'll notice that first, but then when you notice it without judgment and you let it go and you keep moving through it, you'll start to notice like, I love that curve. I love that like my hips like goes like, I love my softness. I love my breasts. I love my arms. Like, and so moving in a way that feels good while you see it helps to reprogram the brain. So that's why I say like find something that you feel super sexy and good in that you can practice. It's a practice. It's not going to feel good. You're going to cringe at first, but the more you do it, the better you're going to feel.
And I think even like reframing that lingerie or a good bra and underwear is for you.
Yeah.
It's not for your partner.
Exactly.
It's not for someone else's pleasure, right? And kind of reclaiming that like,
I
don't want to wear something that's super uncomfortable, but I think he would like or she would like, right? I want to wear something that looks sexy for me, that feels good for me, that feels good on my body, but then also is maybe like a little see-through or something or whatever it is, or matches.
Yeah.
You know,
matches.
It's not torn apart.
Yes, that's it. That's it. And it's so funny because I have, that like exercise, and then I have my favorite granny panties that like are just stretched to the max.
Yes.
I'm like, we laugh so hard.
With period blood.
Exactly. They're stained. I said, these underwear are so important to me. I was like, they love me back. They feel so good on me, and I will not get rid of them until they fall apart. And so it's like, it's both and.
I think for me, what it just calls is like, why can I maybe look at my underwear drawer and see how I feel about it?
Yeah.
Like, can I take inventory of where do I feel like I have lost myself and where do I want to reclaim? Which one feels comfortable? Which one feel torn and like I really need to throw away? Like, and can I give myself permission to buy things for me? Like, and that people won't see.
That you're like, I know that I feel sexy and sensual, and like, I just feel good. I just feel like I can move in this, or I don't have to be constricted. So part of that too is like, get rid of the stuff that doesn't feel good, that cuts into you, that's like not, that's not for you. But practicing pleasure. You have to practice it. That's the only way to reprogram.
Chrissy, okay, this is so fun. We can keep talking forever, but tell people where to find you, how to follow you, and then can you give us the dates for your upcoming program?
I'm going to do start on March 18th, meeting live. So it's going to be that 10-week, meeting / recording if you can't make it live, going through all of this together as women and sort of having that support throughout that 10-week container. So I'm really excited about that. But you can find me at chrissypowers.com. You can contact me there if you're interested in working with me one-on-one. And you can also find me on Instagram at Chrissy J. Powers.
Love it. And you do therapy and coaching, correct?
Yeah. So I do therapy with people in California. And then I do coaching, or what I like to call like therapeutic coaching, with anybody else globally.
Right. Yeah.
I'm like, it doesn't mean that I don't bring any therapy to it.
Exactly.
Like,
because I think that's a part of you, right? It's like how you show up in the
Mm-hmm.
world. And so beautiful.
Thank you.
I've said
so
beautiful multiple times because
I love it. I'm feeling so good today.
Yes, because it's true, right? It's true. And again, like when we see our own beauty, we can see the beauty in other people. So
absolutely. If you spot it, you got it.
Oh, yes. Hashtag something.
Hashtag you spot it, you got it.
Yes, that's it.
If you see beauty, it's only because you have it.
Chrissy, thank you so much for being on today. We will have all of that info in the show notes. But again, if you just follow her on Instagram, you have to, because her content is amazing and wonderful. So
thank you.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. This was really fun.
Thanks so much for tuning in again, you guys. It really means the world to us. And if you are curious about embodiment, this is for you. Please check out Chrissy's embodiment program to really feel the power of a safe space held by healing women. And lastly, if you are loving the podcast, please give us a review on Apple Podcasts so we can continue to reach and help other people. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you next time.